All right, it is 4:35 and we are back in session. Next up, we're going to be discussing or learning about the strategies used for the downtown McKinney revitalization and Tupp's Brewery expansion and relocation down here. We have three guest presenters. I'm so thankful for you guys to spend your afternoon with us. We have Ms. Kim Fromm. She's the Assistant City Manager here of McKinney. We have Miss Cindy Schneibel. She's the president of the McKinney Development Corporation. We have Mr. Trevor Minyard, Director of Strategic Services. Y'all take it away. It's yours.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'll dance first. First of all, thank you for coming down to McKinney and doing your retreat here in historic downtown McKinney. I trust your day has been fruitful. And I know you got more coming tomorrow, and you'll have a little fun this evening. So we'll jump right into it, try to give you some time back if we can this evening. Mayor, you already mentioned who's with me, but Kim is our expert on all things downtown, so she'll reach in and give some more context about this building and some of the efforts that you heard about from the Mayor Pro Tem this morning of how we've gotten to this point in McKinney. It's in no small part due to the vendors that are around us, the investment that they've made on the private sector, and then some concerted efforts that the city's made over the past 15 to 20 years as well. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. Anything else before we jump in? Okay. So this is our discussion agenda. We've gone through some welcome and orientation already. We'll touch base on downtown history. I got these two flipped, so you'll have to forgive me. We have a range of East Side projects, which you'll get to see in the flesh on the tour. Not all of them, but some of them. And we have those on a map as well for you. And then we'll dive into the Tupp's Brewery, what I call a P4, just because we had two separate public entities participating. And then lessons learned and what's next, specifically for the brewery project, but then also in general, what we're doing here in downtown. So Kim, if you don't mind, I'll let you talk a little bit about East McKinney projects and all of the various work that's going on over there.
Absolutely, thank you. And again, welcome. We're so excited you're here in McKinney. I love that you explored off-site for your retreat today and tomorrow. So you heard a little bit about the building we're in and this side of historic downtown this morning from Mayor Pro Tem Rogers and probably Paul Grimes. I'm going to give you a little bit of overview about the side of town you're going to go to next, which is across State Highway 5. And State Highway 5 traditionally has been sort of a north-south divide. An east and west side sort of thing in our historic part of the city. The courthouse has always been kind of the heartbeat of the commercial center of historic downtown. The east side of Highway 5 was generally, historically, an underserved area. There's a zone between State Highway 5 and some legacy neighborhoods that was primarily industrial, flour mill, cotton mill, grain type things happen there. And the east side is historically kind of our black and brown communities, and there is a massive amount of culture and history there. What's kind of interesting is we've always known that things would change and redevelop on this area east of Highway 5. Even in our 2008 Town Center study, we looked at the fact that someday there could be a transit area there. There's a DART line, even though it's not operable, it is owned by DART, a railroad line that runs parallel to State Highway 5. While the rest of McKinney has grown and changed very quickly, and even this historic part of downtown has undergone significant changes from aesthetic and business types and investment, that area east of Highway 5 hasn't. It hasn't gone one way or another. There has been, there's generations of families that live there and they've bought lots and built homes, but it's generally been kind of stable. But now, all of a sudden in 2020, we had Tupp's starting to come online, which is a pretty exciting project. We had City Hall that we're working on. The parks were going through some changes. We knew that with all this work, there would be infrastructure work. And understandably, some of our residents came out and said, what is going on over there? So we kind of pooled our resources together to create a team of folks to say, let's put an umbrella over all these things. We have all these projects that are happening with all these different departments. And some of us kind of know everything that's going on, but nobody, we're not all connecting in the best way we could. So we created kind of a leadership team of folks to try to pull everything together. We threw the projects into essentially 5 different buckets: infrastructure, parks, neighborhood housing, redevelopment, and arts, culture, and festivals. We started a group where we started providing quarterly updates to the council in a unified manner of all these projects. We also established a liaison group of folks who live in the community or stakeholders on the east side to help us get the word out, bridge the communication gap, and attempt to rebuild some mistrust that occurred between the neighborhoods and the city. Can you go to the next slide here? So here is a graphic kind of example of the projects, and there's 2 slides here, and what I want to emphasize here is this overview of projects are kind of the projects we started with. These are the ones the city knew was happening, and Old Settlers Park was probably one of the first ones. We were doing a master plan to improve the park. We did a major renovation of the recreation center there. Tups, I don't know if is there a pointer on this?
Right there.
Right here?
I don't know if it's going to hit the
Oh, yeah, it won't hit the screen. We have, obviously, State Highway 5 is a tech stop project that's going to be improved. Number 3 over there, that's the City Hall site that's currently under construction. We also have private development happening in this area. So right on State Highway 5 in Virginia, you'll see this too. We have a large multifamily project under construction. Wasn't only in the planning phases when we created this team. And we also have a landowner who owns a lot of the vacant industrial property. So this zone between historic downtown and the neighborhoods is undergoing rapid change, and it is not just a brewery. It is a lot of things. As these projects kicked off and as we started working with the neighborhoods, we ended up with sort of a lot of other projects that kind of grew organically. So the Silo Mural project, which is complete, was not on our initial list, but was an opportunity that we could not pass up, and was also a really great way to involve the community and also recognize kind of the community and the area in which all of these other things are going to happen. Several other great ideas kind of came out of our resident group, including street toppers for these historic legacy neighborhoods, neighborhood cleanups, and now we're in the phase where we are creating a framework for the organization of neighborhood associations. So McKinney overall is a city of many HOAs, but our historic areas don't have HOAs. So we are creating a framework and even a grant program for neighborhood associations to kind of empower the people who live in the communities. So TUPS was definitely a massive catalyst project, but this part of McKinney is going to undergo quite a bit of change over the next several years. Is there anything I forgot?
Great.
All right. I don't know what this.
So this is a general aerial, and we're going to shift gears a little bit. Kim laid the foundation of everything that's happening on the east side and the public investment that's serving as a foundational element of some of these other projects that are a little more high profile. I'm going to touch base on the 2 highest profile projects maybe on the east side right now, which are the TUPS projects. We'll delve into about the deal specifically a little later, but then also the McKinney City Hall complex, which is a 180,000 square foot facility that's going to be directly north. Right now, though, I believe, so that's the red box that you see is where we're going to spend pretty much the rest of our time on. And to give you some scope of where that is in conjunction to where you are, it's only about 4 blocks to the east. So currently you're in the McKinney Performing Arts Center right in the heart of the historic downtown. This is the catalyst that's allowed us to stretch this vibe that we have in downtown across Highway 5 into what is going to be a new district for the city. Obviously, creating a new district isn't just putting a city facility on it and then putting a private partner on it. There's all sorts of infrastructure investment, other community involvement concern that Kim mentioned, in addition to just parks and recreation that continue on across east, farther past the city site and the TUPS site. I would also be remiss if I didn't say, so Cindy, and she'll chime in here when we get to the TUPS deal and maybe even before then, but a lot of the improvements and investments over the past 20 years have been in no small part due to the McKinney Community Development Corporation's investments and grants that they've provided, whether it's to private entities, to NGO-type entities, to do reinvestment and rehab of facilities like this, roadway facilities from time to time, streetscape things, and then park updates that go on and on year and year. I don't know if you want to throw in a little more about the CDC's history just in downtown specifically.
Yeah, I would just add, in terms of context, the CDC is a Type B corporation, so we're funded through half-cent sales tax, established in 1996, and the revenue annually is currently about $20 million a year. One of the CDC board's priorities is focusing on development and redevelopment of the east side, the historic cultural district, and then the east side. And as Trevor mentioned, we made a significant investment in this building, turning it from the county courthouse into the Performing Arts Center, have supported the parks that are adjacent to the projects that we're going to be talking about. The municipal center that's under construction, the outdoor plaza area. Our focus is really on community spaces, public spaces, so opportunities like the plaza at the municipal center, the outdoor entertainment venue at Tubbs, outside areas at the flour mill, which you'll see as well, have been a primary focus of the CDC board. And we've also, within the past few years, developed a grant program, retail development infrastructure. We're very limited with respect to what we can do on the retail front, but infrastructure, exterior infrastructure, is one of the things that we can fund. So we started a program to primarily support the downtown and historic cultural district building owners and merchants, recognizing that historic buildings carry a unique set of challenges. And so this was a way that we could help fund some of the work that needed to be done in this downtown area.
And on those projects, as we do the tour, we'll probably be able to point to a building or two where some of those funds have been used. So again, you're downtown. We're going to walk a little bit east here in a few minutes to the primary site that was highlighted earlier. The south side of that red box is the Tubbs property. We'll talk about the travel of how that came into city and CDC ownership here in a little while, but I wanted to underscore the infrastructure investments that occurred and are underway, I should say, to allow us to unlock this piece of McKinney. So this is only a piece of what was shown on the previous cartoon map or graphic. And these are the primary infrastructure improvements that are going to support the red box, as I'm calling it. The orange line going south to north, that's Highway 5. So TxDOT is going to be redeveloping Highway 5 to the tune of $120, $130 million or so, farther north and farther south than what's represented on the screen, but this is what impacts the project that we're discussing. The city is looking into what's a nice way to say it? Looking into possibilities about how to create safer pedestrian crossing, whether that is an at-grade deck crossing, if you think Clyde Warren Park, whether that's a subgrade crossing of something that's more like an atrium feel as you go under Highway 5 in a pedestrian manner, or it's a traditional dressed up, slowed down pedestrian crossing in an urban environment like we all are going to experience here today. I don't know if you have some more insight to give on that. That's Kim's project, so.
Yeah, well, and I smile when you say polite, so it's a big, bold idea.
Yes.
The notion of a deck park means we would have to take Highway 5 and tunnel it underground. Even the notion of keeping Highway 5 where it is and putting a big park kind of staggered and stepped down in an amphitheater fashion, those are massive infrastructure. You know, we're talking anywhere between $30 and $90 million projects that have property acquisition implications, budget implications. So it's a big, bold project. It's very exciting, but it's also very complicated when you're trying to coordinate timing with TxDOT when they're on one schedule and our schedule might not align. So I smile. You guys know this. Like, we have to wrestle with tough problems sometimes and figure out how to get all the options in front of council so they can make a decision. And this one has been a tough one to try to figure out all the details, but we are hoping to get some direction on council. What we do know is they're absolutely committed to improving the aesthetic of Highway 5 and improving that pedestrian connection, not just in downtown, but north and south as well. Surprisingly, there are a lot of people who bike and walk across these streets, and it's not always very safe.
And then the figure earlier, the 130 million figure is what's kind of budgeted right now in TxDOT's budget for the redevelopment of the project at large. Any of the dressed up improvements that we're talking about is something that the city would take on from our side of the project. The blue lines that are represented there, those are city projects, whether it be a street, sewer, drainage, wastewater. You can see we're going to be putting in a roundabout on the south side. That's Louisiana. The top one going left to right is Virginia. And then the blue south-north line is Throckmorton. So all of those streets are going to be rebuilt with some others that aren't represented on the map to support not only the Tups property, but the City Hall complex too, which is on the north side. That is roughly $20 million. Again, those are just what you see in the blue is 20 million-ish. There's going to be tens of millions of dollars over the course of our east side redevelopment that was represented on the earlier map that you saw. And that's, decades of work in front of us.
Is that primarily funded through EDC? Is it bonds?
It's bonds, so a lot of it's street bonds, a lot of it's CIP money, revenue bonds for the water and sewer side. There are some grants that we anticipate that we'll be able to pursue for the dressed up pedestrian crossing on the orange line that you see. We are definitely reaching out to the CDC on a variety of programs to create new roads and offset some funding levels so that we can reinvest from the general fund side in older roads. So it's a variety of strategies. It's a large capital stack that funds our CIP program, which is pretty similar to most cities throughout the state.
Thank you.
So before we get to Tups, this is the City Hall property. Again, it's a 80,000 square foot facility. Right now, the city of McKinney employees are spread across 9, 10, 11 different facilities all over the city. Our favorite story to tell is the parks director has to have a meeting with the city manager. He has to get ready to go to that meeting that starts at 9 at probably like 7:15, just because he is 12 miles that way. And it's a little bit of a stretch, but if he hits traffic or something, he could very much have a 30-minute drive in front of him. We have other facilities that are kind of peppered around the downtown environment that you're in that will be consolidated into this facility, like our HR department, housing community development, our development services, which houses planning, engineering, and the like, communications, IT, utility billing, all of those various departments are scattered in different buildings. Renting, we own a couple of them, and then obviously our City Hall building as well. All of that coming under one roof. So it's a huge project, a generational project that we're all very excited about because we're going to be in a fresh new building as opposed to an old bank building that's been converted from 1958. This has an anticipated completion date of, let's say Q4 2024. We'll probably move in Q1 2025 and all be under one roof. We noticed all of the new improvements that are going to occur in the infrastructure realm for this, and knock on wood, we will have something that looks like that here in the next 18 to 24 months. Cindy mentioned earlier, I don't know if you want to repeat, kind of give them a little flavor of what you all funded on this project.
Yes, you can see from the rendering, there's a significant amount of space, plaza space outside that's being created as a way to host public events in support of the city residents and visitors. And we'll also include a walkway with the history of McKinney. So it's an opportunity to tell the city's history, but also focus on East Side history in particular. So it'll be a great space for not only the city employees who are located there to gather outside, but also residents and visitors who come into our community.
So that's $110 million, give or take 10 million bucks, in today's inflation environment, and a 24-month construction schedule funded primarily through GO bonds that were approved by the voters in 2019, and then a capital stack of a variety of other sources to get us to that total. I don't want to gloss over that, but I know that we want to kind of get into the deal on the public-private partnership. Are there any questions about the city facility?
Beautiful.
All right. And we will invite you all to come out when we do our ribbon cutting.
Those patios are going to be something else.
So we'll move south. This is the Tups property. I say Tups, it's actually owned by the McKinney Community Development Corporation. We'll get more into the ownership structure on some future text slides. But this is an aerial that was taken on January 10th. Some things have changed even since then, 2 months ago to the day. On the left side of the outlined area is a city parking lot. We repurposed some housing that was there, and now there are 200 spots that will support all of the various investments and development that's happening that we've talked about for the past few minutes. And first in line will be the Tups property. The building that has the Tups logo on top of it is their new production facility. It's roughly 3x of the facility they operate out of now, and will be the first building that comes online on the property. That'll be the facility that y'all get to see today. The middle building and the building to the north, which still kind of look like they're in construction mode, are gathering spaces, and then the farthest north would be a kind of tap room restaurant concept. All of those facilities are part of the deal that we'll get into a little bit later, but you can see where the brown kind of tire tracks are and where some concrete looks like it is, and it's, you know, it's the winter and it's a little dirty. That's the green space, or these gathering areas, that is the rationale for why the CDC entered the deal. What's the phrase of the agenda item for the approval?
World-class entertainment venue.
World-class entertainment venue. So it'll be a gathering space for citizens, for the future development that occurs there, and this is a roughly 4-acre site that you're looking at. This is kind of the in-state rendering where you get a little better feel of what those pieces of dirt are going to look like after we do our ribbon cutting. Again, previously you were going south to north. This is a look from north to south, where you have that taproom building on the front side of the picture, or the right side of the picture, I should say. I'm kind of looking at it like this. The barrel aging room, which is a gathering space more than anything, in the middle, and then their production facility there on the south side. You'll see that the parking lot is a public parking lot there at the top of the picture. You can kind of tell our roundabout feature on the bottom, but you know, that's still a little rough. So into the deal. Unless anything else to add before we kind of dive in, or any questions before we dive in. Okay. So I call this a P4, mostly because, you know, P3 is public-private partnership. Well, this is a public-public-private partnership, and that happens a lot in development deals. I'm aware of sometimes cities and their 4A or their 4B, and the type A and type B will get involved, or another entity like a school district or a county will get involved. Specifically in relation to the Tups project, the city of McKinney, the McKinney Community Development Corporation, Tups as an entity, all have skin in the game on the partnership. The two public you see there are us, and then that's Tups Brewery LLC there at the bottom. This will be their world headquarters in the event that they go worldwide. They're in a few different states now, so this will be their national headquarters until that time. So the land. I think this is the most interesting part of the deal, but it feels like it happened 4 years ago, maybe because it was 4 years ago. You saw the McKinney City Complex site on the north, and then we moved down to the south. So we owned the south property as the city of McKinney because that was going to be the location for our city hall facility. And then some things worked out, and we were able to buy that free and clear northland that had a little less work to do on it, but we were left thinking, okay, what are we going to do with the southern side? That purchase included the silos, which, as we talked about earlier, were repurposed and created a nice canvas for a mural that you'll get to look at if you haven't seen already. And the grain mill, the facilities, everything that was on that 4-acre side to the south. Then MCDC acquired the land. They have a little more flexibility in what they're allowed to do as far as incentivizing or developing long-term leases or contracts. And it was a way for them to have some buy-in with the whole east side development that, as Cindy mentioned earlier, was a part of their board's strategies moving forward as an entity. So real quick, City Hall moved north. CDC came in and purchased the land from us on the south. And then we were approached by TUPS. So TUPS, during all of this time, was growing like gangbusters. I think they've, excuse me, we're starting to kind of peak at maybe the 9th largest craft brewery in the state of Texas, and they're inching up place by place every day. And we're getting constrained in their current location. If you have time this evening, I'd encourage you to run over there and spend some money and give some sales tax and all that good stuff. And you kind of can see what I mean by that constraint. So they approached us and mentioned that they were looking for relocation and expansion opportunities, obviously in the city of McKinney, but they had 2 opportunities outside of city limits. Very similar to how economic development deals happen all over the state, whether it's prospectively or for homegrown businesses like TUPS. The CDC at this point owned the land, and we were looking and evaluating on how to create kind of a business anchor for the new district that was getting created on the east side. So we started to get into what we call the sausage making, or the deal points. And that process probably took 9 months, maybe, at least. Just because the complexity of the property itself, being an old grain mill site, the complexity of the shared ownership previous to this CDC, and what was going to have to be required for the development standards in that area of town, being in the McKinney Town Center, which is just an overlay district that requires a little bit different type of development to occur. I feel like I just summarized 3 years worth of work in like 3 bullets, so if I missed anything, just jump in, Cindy. That all led to a long-term lease with the folks at TUPS. The lease was between the MCDC and TUPS, and basically it's an incented rental rate, lease rate, that has 5-year triggers to increase that rate over a period of 30 to 40 years, depending on some purchase options that they enjoy. In addition to that, there's kind of a 2% money rate that's flowing all throughout that 40-year period. The unique part about the deal that really pushed it over the edge, I think, for the CDC board was TUPS agreed to a 2% gross revenue share of all sales. Not all sales at the location, but all sales worldwide. So any sales that are enjoyed by TUPS subsequently get to be enjoyed by the CDC, and that helped us justify the project a little further in the public domain, I would say.
I would just add, it was a different kind of deal, different kind of program for CDC than what we had traditionally supported in the past. We'd only done one other loan up until that point, and it was for a youth athletic facility in one of our city parks. And it had worked out quite well, so we started looking at this as, instead of the traditional grant opportunity, more of an investment and a business deal, where we have the opportunity over a period of time to recoup the investment and then have those funds available to invest in other projects throughout McKinney. So in terms of its appeal, I think what really interested the CDC board members was the opportunity to support a catalyst project on the east side, clearly, but also to create a really great outdoor space, entertainment space. It'll be open to the public, so it'll operate pretty much like a city park, but it will not be maintained by city park staff. And the other thing is that there'll be a connection, you'll see when we go over there, from the TUPS campus through the area where the flour mill is to the municipal complex. So really nice flow, really nice opportunity to use that entire space in really interesting ways for the community.
Cindy, I'll pick on you again. If you want to touch base on the programming coordination, because this was a large part too about the city and CDC's kind of quote unquote ownership into the project and ability to shift programming as necessary onto that new catalyst site.
We've got a program through CDC to provide promotional grants to events that not only attract city residents but visitors, and they're major events like Oktoberfest and Home for the Holidays and Arts in Bloom. And so we wanted to ensure there was an opportunity for inclusion of the new Tubbs site. In some cases, an event may move to that site. In other cases, we want to provide it as an additional location for those major events. Oktoberfest draws about 70,000 people over a weekend to downtown McKinney. Same thing with Home for the Holidays. A little bit smaller number to Arts in Bloom, but that's about 50,000 people. So to be able to expand the event venue in some respects to include the entertainment venue that Tubbs will bring on the east side was very attractive to the city. So we work with them. They have their own events that they do, but we have an opportunity to include or involve them in 10 events, city events, throughout the course of the year. We also support in the city nonprofit events that take place, or for-profit, the one that's coming up tomorrow, the St. Patrick's Day Beer Walk, and to be able to expand our area again for things like the Beer Walk to the Tubbs campus will be a really exciting feature of this project.
So all this happened right around end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and everything was normal. Then it didn't get normal after that, as everybody in the room knows. So over the course of 2020 into 2021, we had some bumps along the road. Obviously, like everybody else, we had this little pandemic pause. Then coming into the back end, middle to the back end of 2021, as there was really some momentum going, the deal was being finalized, inflation kind of started to creep up, and not to mention we're on a 100-year-old site, so that had some hair on it as far as National Historic Register and some other things that we had to get through. And finally, the scope. We wanted kind of a Taj Mahal type thing and didn't have necessarily a Taj Mahal type budget, so we had to evaluate with the Tubbs team what could stay and what could go. And that led into really what all projects across North Texas especially are feeling was just funding capacity and funding needs. So the original deal shifted a little bit. The major tenets of the deal that I put on the screen are the exact same. It's just that the zeros and the dollars changed a little bit and the share of all of that. Everybody came to the table, put more money in, Tubbs included, and we're 60%, 70% of the way over there. Sans a couple of the building improvements that you'll get to see on the tour. Any more bumps to share?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is supply chain.
Yeah, supply chain.
Just like every project, it seems,
Yeah, it
that's
seems.
in process right now.
If you guys know where an elevator is, just please tell us. So what's next? Phased opening in late spring. The brewery building will open under a TCO. You'll see that today. And then we anticipate full certificate of occupancy on the site, end of summer, early fall, and it will continue just to be an activization, is that a word? Activation for the east side developments that are occurring. So again, that stretch from downtown to East McKinney, this will be step one in that long-range, decade-long process that we're doing. Unless my co-stars have anything to add, we'll take questions. I know we're coming up on time.
Keith is here.
Oh, and Keith walked in. He didn't throw anything at me, so I didn't say anything out of turn. Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Council, any questions? Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Sure.
How was working with TxDOT? We're about to enter into a corridor study. How was that in your east side with them making improvements?
So, well, we're still working with them, and what we know with TechStat, they have a baseline, and then if you want to go above that, then you probably have to explore going off system. And I think we know that in this part of the city, we're going to have to go off system to get what the city needs. Generally, though, our staff has a pretty good working relationship with TechStat. We try to keep them in the loop on all the things we're doing, try to keep open communication channels, and build good relationships with the folks there. But they also, they have their world that they have to work in, and then we have to work with that. So regardless of what direction is, I can't speak late in the afternoon either. Whatever selection is pushed by council in terms of how we go about the pedestrian improvements, taking the road off system is probably part of that for us.
I was hoping you had another answer, but that's kind of what I expected.
The hairy part about that too is it's on the federal system.
Yeah,
Maybe
so,
mention that.
right, I know. So we don't have, and this is one of the timing challenges from this really cool idea that is a park. It's not just a TxDOT road, it's also on the national highway system. So it is a literal act of Congress to take it off system, and that can take a couple of years.
Well, if there are no further questions, I think we're about ready for a tour. I would like to ask about room logistics. Should I be taking my gear? Should we be, well, me personally, but should we be taking our gear to our vehicles? Should we be encouraged to leave stuff here because the room is lockable? I don't know the answers.
We can leave things here because the room is lockable, but I don't know that we'll be able to get back into it tonight. So
Okay.
if it's something that you need tonight, you probably want to take it with us when we go.
Okay.
But if you just want it for here for tomorrow, you're going to leave it.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so with that, we're going to take a walking tour of downtown McKinney, and we're going to be at the Performing Arts Center, and then we're going to stop actually at the Last Art Gallery as well. We'll conclude at the Tups Brewery, and at that point, council will adjourn at the conclusion of that tour. So anybody who's public here will adjourn at that point, and then we'll go have dinner, which no business will be discussed at dinner. All right, let's go get a tour.
So, Lewisville team, I'm excited to introduce you to Jennifer Burke. Jennifer is one of the four folks that help manage this facility. But she's going to explain more. This is really a grassroots effort to bring art to this community. They have a very strong artistic community, and people come not just from McKinney, but from all over to participate in this. So I wanted Jennifer to kind of tell you, because it is a pretty magical thing what's happening with minimal input from the city other than the creation of a lively, supportive downtown.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to the Last Art Gallery. We are a cooperatively run gallery. We show and support 47 artists that all live and work here locally in the North Texas area. Some of the folks come as far as like Saxe and out in the outer lying sort of suburbs, more rural areas. And most of our customers are actually from out of town. They're visitors. So like, for example, today we had a couple of people from Southwest Arkansas come in, and they did quite a bit of shopping because, as they put it, they live in a cultural desert. So, and they plan to come back to take workshops and do that kind of thing. This gallery was actually started by a woman named Gail Delger, and you can see her work up there on the wall. She and two other ladies who make jewelry and paint, Dana Brock and Judy Darrow, some of their jewelry's right here. Those three ladies ran this gallery for 5 years. They were open 5 days a week, and they were the staff, the three of them. So you can imagine the workload that they had. When they ran the gallery, the retail floor ran on this side as far back as you can see where those gray walls are. And over here, there was just a wall walling off that whole half of the space. So when they decided they were ready to move on to something new, one of the current four partners, Brad, got involved, and he said he would like to buy the gallery from Gail And then he asked for people to step forward. So myself and 2 other folks stepped forward. So we're 4 partners who have been running the gallery now for about 4.5, 5 years. And instead of us working all the shifts, we decided to make it cooperatively run. So our 47 artists all take turns. Everybody works at least 2 shifts a month. Sometimes we have to step up and work more because somebody got sick or something happened and they have to travel, what have you. But everybody supports everybody. And as Claire said, we have a lot of support from downtown McKinney. We have the downtown McKinney group. They do a lot to market. For example, tomorrow we have a beer walk, and we're one of the filling stations where folks come in to try a different beer. So if you'd like, I'll walk you through, and you can see how we're all laid out here. You can have a look at the art, and I'll just take you in the back to show you the classroom/filling station. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so you can see the art is all over the place on all the walls. Along this eastern wall, we have studios, and some of our artists who show their work also make their work here. So this is a great thing, like for tomorrow when we have a beer walk. All of the customers who come in to get their beer here will be able to stop and see. A lot of these artists will be in here working, so they can stop and see people working. They can talk to artists. They can find out about their process, find out about their classes. So we're basically providing our artists with access to customers, to a market, and also helping to build community for our creative community here in McKinney. So back here is a classroom, which right now it's set up actually as a studio because the gentleman, Clyde, who's up front, is what's called a light painter. And once we close tonight, he's going to be working on his art back here. And then we're going to transform this all for the beer walk. So we also hold classes and workshops back here. And that's about it. So if you want to have a peek and then take a look through the rest of the retail floor, make yourselves welcome. And if I can answer any questions, please let me know.
Jennifer, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
What is a light painter?
Shall I get, so he,
Am I, you gonna talk about that later? Did I just
no,
jump the
no,
gun?
I was
Okay.
actually going to ask Clyde if he wants to come and explain it to you, because,
I never heard of that before.
yeah, it's kind of a new
Okay.
thing, but I'll get him and see if he can explain that.
Oh, look at this. I'm intrigued.
I'd love to see us figure this out.
Light painting, long exposure photography, or better put, time lapse. Everybody probably better knows time lapse. I use these tubes. Different widths, colored gels. I put my flashlight in the tube, turn it on, get a margarita, a glass of wine, get happy. Just get happy, just start dancing around. Pump my music up and just start dancing. The joy of light painting, see, I'm a struggling artist. Most people go out and get models. I got Bobby here. Bobby does what I ask him to do. Bobby poses well. So, you know, it's just, you know, you're always in a darkened environment. You set your camera up, you have a clicker, timer, and then you just work behind the model. So you can come in front of the model and do what you want to do. But like I said, it's got to be in a dark environment. I painted down here about a month ago, and it still wasn't dark enough, but it depends how bright or how strong your flashlight is. This flashlight is a Walmart flashlight. I think I paid $24 for it. I got some in that bag there that are probably over 1,200, 1,500 lumens. Cost me $100 and something odd dollars, but that's bright. That's really bright, and I'm able to overpower what ambient light is still lurking, I should say. Basically, that's it. You'll see some of the prints up in the front on the wall, but light painting is just a lot of movement. If you're artsy, I'm not artsy. I mean, people can stand here and draw out what they, you see paintings up there, people that are really good at this will sit there and draw out what they want to do. You can start painting here and land up way over here. And it can go, your time lapse can go anywhere from 5-10 seconds to 10 minutes if you want it. How elaborate you want to get. The camera will always just stay open for you. And like I said, you get online and look at light painting, you'll see some people that do some amazing things. I mean, paint the size of this wall. You can imagine how much time that takes and the creativity to it. But I do what I do, and I just get happy. It's I like to say it. It's an old man just killing time. Just get up in the media room. I do it in either my media room or the backyard, and I tend not to want to go out in the backyard anymore because the mosquitoes are just. I can't take all the bites anymore. So when I joined the gallery here, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to start doing mine down here. I'll paint down here for a while. And I'm getting ready now because I want to do a workshop down here sometime in probably either late April or early May. And what better place to come and get my display pictures than right here at the gallery. Basically, that's it. And it doesn't, like I said, it's inexpensive if you want to. I have pictures up there where, the kids' finger lights. My grandkids get out there and start painting and running around the yard, and you never know what you're gonna get. And the joy of it is you don't know what you're gonna get, and you'll never reproduce it. So everything you do is a one of a kind. That's it. If you want to say it's a limited series, okay. Or if you want to just say this is it, this one is it, and I'm not producing anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Coverage your show.
Okay, well, I have a confession. I don't even work here. I just saw people gathering. No, so just one of our business owners here in downtown McKinney, so appreciate y'all visiting that. We're gonna go like 5 blocks this way, and along the way you're gonna see redeveloped sidewalks and redeveloped streets for about 3-ish of those blocks. That's, I don't know, what in the last 2 years or so that's been done. So you'll see some of these lights across right here where we are, and then also a little further to the east. All of that was a part of a capital program to just redevelop what had already been developed around 15 years ago or so, mostly to make it a little more pedestrian friendly. So this bench would have been basically where the sidewalk was before then. It ended up taking away, shocker, a couple of parking spots. But we have a new parking garage that you may be able to see once we get to Highway 5, and we have access to about 200 spots in a private parking garage a little farther to the south. So it may have been mentioned earlier, but all of this is in a TERS or a TIF zone. So the property and sales tax collection that comes from this area gets reinvested back into this area as we walk and talk. This building was a recipient of a TERS facade improvement grant. So it looks fresh and new, has new facade because of that grant. And we'll pass quite a few of those along the way. If you have questions, just ask me, because I'm not going to talk the whole time. That way, which is a wild project. It's one of the taller buildings in downtown McKinney, so after you're finished here, if you're feeling, kind of frisky, you can walk over there and kind of see some of the construction, and then they'll repurpose this probably into another restaurant use. Rick Wells is operator here. He also operates Rick's Chop House, which is a steakhouse right over in this area, and the hotel.
Is this residential as well or office?
Office. Yeah. up just because it's pertinent. Right now we're in the middle of a renegotiation on our trash contract, so we're out for proposal, I should say. Downtown trash is a huge issue. If you get to a point where you have to apply for downtown like this, it'll be a huge issue for you, because it's a huge issue for anybody in an historic downtown environment. You just have to balance the political and the financial of is the investment for a subsidized garbage collection, recycling work, some of the offset that you get from a lot of folks coming into a focal point in your area. But I use the trash can, so I just thought I'd throw that out
Are
there.
you having to bring it out to these central locations, or do you have dumpsters?
We have a couple dumpsters throughout, but we started the totes 18 months ago or so. It used to just be bag and throw. A lot of the shop owners have a little frog here. We should create some kind of mascot that people can pay $100 for. A certain standard.
Was that pre or during COVID that you created that?
It got more robust in COVID, but we saw a couple of patio leases come through beforehand.
Gotcha.
Also, the McKinney Town Center, specifically around the areas that we're in right now, are an open container. So you can go buy a can of beer or whatever have you and filtered, and you can be walking around with it. Okay. This is our historic water tower. It is non-operating. It is a very large, very robust cell phone tower.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
It has a lighting element on it, so we'll shift the lights out from time to time, and it's kind of a part of the McKinney skyline.
yeah, there's a ton of gear on that tower.
Let's go! Run! You can see the side of the mural, and that crane is helping develop the City Hall facility. Cookies. This is the best taco place you can.
Where?
Right there.
Well, they're closed.
They do breakfast and lunch.
Trust me, that lady does enough for you. Just kind of follow your neighbor in front of you.
I think Trevor's might go around and pick her up a little bit.
Helping her.
Yeah, exactly.
She's quite the herd.
How are you?
No rain today.
No rain today. We're still cleaning up a little bit. I think it's a little worse for wear, but getting it cleaned up.
Zeb!
Trevor, how are you?
I'm great. Everyone, this is Zeb.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Keith.
Zeb's with Spa Glass. They're helping do everything you see here. It's a little muddy and messy on the front side of the site. I know you guys cleaned up a little bit, so I appreciate that. But we're going to go to the south building And then I'm gonna hand it off to Keith and Zeb to kind of continue the song and dance about where we're at.
All right.
Zeb, do we need a hard hat?
No, sir. So obviously this is a parking lot. I think it's 210 spots, like a little over 2 acres. So this is what was kind of redeveloped. This was a trailer park, which was less than desirable. So that has all been addressed, and now this will be great parking for the Tup site, for the development north, and then for people overflow from downtown, which would be pretty cool.
Now,
This building here is actually the purser house for the old McKinney Grain Company. So on the other side of the house, there's actually a scale that you would drive a truck over, weigh your truck, you go into this building, you get your grain, you pull back around, you get it weighed, and then you pay. There's a safe in there, and there's a really cool scale in there. So that is going to be converted into a coffee shop. So it'll be kind of neat. So all the city employees are going to be over here at City Hall, which is where the blue fence is over there. They're going to come over here and drink a lot of coffee. So, and beer, yeah. After work beer. So this building here is the old grain facility. So actually, I guess it was 2 years ago when we looked at this property, it was actually functioning. So it was really cool. I fell in love with it. It's dirty, stinky, smelly. It was just perfect for us. So, and then Zeb's crew took hold of it, and they took all the skin off the outside of it. They're shoring up the structure. They'll put the wall assembly back on. So the walls that are going to go on that are exactly what was taken off of it. So it'll look just like it did back in the day. And then the little building on the back, that green area, is a lot of bathrooms, which is very important on a site like this. And then there's also a full kitchen. So you'll be able to come here and have, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then in front of it in here is all going to be a beer garden. So we'll have tables and chairs. And then a lot of the art that you see kind of spread out through the city, we're going to have a lot of things that are kind of art focused and, you know, sculptures and everything. One of them is being built right now under that little covered thing. That's a 12-ton piece of granite that's all being carved, and it's going to be raised up on a pedestal on an angle, and then there's kind of chains on it, and then it's going to have a flock of birds on the top of it, so it looks like it's yanking this piece of rock up. So it'll be really cool and iconic. And then across the street there's going to be a roundabout, which will add a little character to it, which will be kind of cool. So
One thing you didn't mention, but they can see, and you'll get a better look at it on the south side. The wall of bricks that you see there, those are repurposed from the City Hall site, what used to be an old tow yard and an old ice house. So we said, hey Keith, I'll take these if you want them. And he said, heck yeah, I want them. And then they're building their west side wall out of that, and they'll incorporate, east side wall out of that, and they'll incorporate some of the miscellaneous extras into the site. And Zeb's had fun with that. Funding the sculpture you described. Part of the project.
this building we found on the slab inside that it was, or at least the slab was poured in 1915. So it's at least that old, we think, which is kind of cool.
The building on the historic register, is that right?
Right. This
Yeah.
is one of them. Right.
So that, as you can imagine, caused a little complication.
But it's really interesting because I really think that most cities or most developers would look at this site and say it's got a lot of potential, it's a great size. I'm going to mow it all down and put apartments. And we are the exact opposite. We want to keep as much stuff as we can to, keep the history alive here. So all of the panels off this building are in this warehouse. This warehouse was built in the 30s, and right now it's just storage for us, but we're going to take the barn tin off the side of it, off of here, and off the other side, and then it's going to be kind of a covered outdoor beer garden kind of thing. We'll have a bar in there. This will all be beer garden in the middle, and it'll be a really cool place to hang out. If you've ever been to the current Touch spot, the vibe in this building will be comparable to what we have in our current state. The cool thing about this building here, it has two things which are going to help our business enormously. One that has air conditioning and has heat, because our place doesn't have that right now. So when it's in the middle of winter, it's freezing cold, and in the summer it's boiling hot. And for some reason, people still come in and drink beer, but for here they'll be able to find a place to hang, I think. So then back here we have kind of a, this is going to be kind of interesting here, because these structures here actually are not too exciting because these are dumpsters. But we'll have a lot of garbage, so that's what these are for. But on the other side of the dumpsters, we're putting 6 grain bins. So if you ever remember driving across Kansas and you see out in the middle of the field, you see these low things that don't stand up in the air, just low bins. We'll have 6 of those over there. And then what we did is that we went out and we interviewed, we had about 80 applicants, and we interviewed small businesses to take up space in these grain bins. And we're calling it a BYOB program. Not bring your own beer, but it's build your own business. So we started Tups Brewery out of my garage, so it's kind of a throwback to say, all right, how do we help people get started? Hopefully they're here a couple of years, they grow, they leave, and we kind of get more people through like that. It'd be kind of cool. So we've got 6 people right now that are really excited to get in and start building their spot. And then you'll see on the end of this building, that actually was a loading dock for this. This was their warehouse. So what we did is we took the loading dock and lowered it, and it will be our stage. So from here back, you can see you'll have bands playing here. We'll take the barn tin off the side of it, and then on this grassy area around here will be a place you can hang out and listen to music. And then this is the brewery building. So that's where all the beer is going to be made. And it's a 25,000 square foot building. It's 4 stories tall. Our current capacity in our current spot's about 12,000 barrels of beer. That puts us, 9 to 10 and the biggest in the state, believe it or not. But the capacity in this building, when it's fully built out, will be over 50,000 barrels of beer. So we are shooting way ahead of the duck here, but we want this to be our forever home. That was kind of the intent. I kind of felt that with our old location, but this one will definitely be our forever home. So we'll go over here and then you can see inside of it, see all the fancy stainless steel. Over here we're going to have a fire pit. We're going to have a rebar tree that comes out, and we'll have vines growing through that tree. And one of the guys that's going to be in one of these grain bins is actually going to turn it into like a humidor. So he's going to be able to sell cigars and everything, and that'll be kind of the bro zone over here where everybody can hang out there. As opposed to the other side of the building, which is over on this side, there's a lot of wide open space there, and that's going to be the kids zone.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So one of the things that a lot of people say is, well, I can't bring my kids to a brewery, and trust me, 10 to 15% of everybody that's here is about that tall. It's just a wonderful place for all the young families to come, drink a beer, watch their kids, or pretend like they're watching their kids. Cool.
Yep, watch your step. It's been rainy and muddy, so.
So this is the manufacturing facility. I'll give you a quick tour of the infrastructure. The most important thing right over there is where the bathrooms are. So the good news is that we've got, I think it's 7 men, 7 women, so that's a good amount of bathrooms, and same equal count by the restaurant up front. So at our current place, we have 2. So this will be really awesome. The occupancy here is about 2,500 people on the entire site. So you need a lot of bathrooms. This is going to be a storage area right over here. And then you go up these stairs. Up top is where our offices are going to be. And then we'll have a rentable space up there as well for small parties. You know, like I think the occupancy up there is 49. So, but down here is where all the production happens. So this monstrosity here is our brew house. So think of that as the kitchen. Our current location has a 2-vessel, 30-barrel system. This is a 4-vessel, 60-barrel system. So literally it's almost 4 times the size as our current. And then this little tank off the front here is really unique for us, is that we will be able to do, that's a 15-barrel system. It's like another system. So we'll be able to do small batch beers for everybody on site. And then if everybody falls in love with one of them, then it's kind of an incubator for taking it out to the market. Be pretty cool. So this little tanks in the front, that has caustic chemicals in it. That's how we clean all the tanks. And this is a good example over here of this manifold with these pipes that come up. They come over, they're gonna come down into the cleaning system. So all the head brewer needs to do is push buttons on top, and they can move beer around, they can move chemicals around to clean everything. So it's really super efficient. This thing is designed to be a food grade facility. So you don't need to be a food grade facility if you make beer. It's kind of weird. But that's because it has hops and has alcohol in it, which kills bacteria. If you were in making milk, you'd have to do all sorts of crazy stuff. So we want to be able to make sure that we can do other things other than just beer. And one of them would be non-alcoholic beer. Sodas we could do here as well. Energy drinks, so all sorts of things like that. So we wanted that flexibility. This area over here is our canning line. Our current canning line, we package all our beer. It goes at about 30 cans a minute. This thing runs at 300 cans a minute. So we had SCA Fabrication over here that basically helped us design the system, and they've integrated all of the this part over here, and then that thing where it says Profil can, that we purchased from a company in Milwaukee, and that's what's going to fill the beer with can and put the lids on. And then they roll down here, they get the label, they get the ringer, and then they go on a tray. So, and then here is our walk-in. So all the beer would be palletized and it will go in there. That's about 6 times the size of the one we have, which is going to be wonderful. And one of the things that our team is real excited about is on the other side of that wall is a loading dock. And that is huge, you know, just to be able to take a pallet of beer, drive it in a truck and set it down versus what we have to do in the other place. So a little quick how you make beer. This is the cooking process. In the corner there, see these tanks here with the conical bottom on these things? That's where we ferment the beer. So we basically put the liquid that we generate here, which is called wort, we put it in that tank, we ferment it, put the yeast in, creates the alcohol, and in that corner, all the open space back there, all the tanks from our current spot are gonna fit in there. And then in the future, we will put tanks where these drains are here, and we'll keep adding more capability. This tank over here with the flat bottom on it, that looks like the SpaceX rocket. We've got 7 of those at our other place. They're gonna go down this wall. That's where all we do there is carbonate the beer. So here's we create wort, that's where we create the alcohol, here's where we create the carbonation.
How long does the fermenting process take?
Takes probably 10 to 14 days on average for most beers. There are a couple beers we have that are higher ABV, which are maybe 30 days it could be, but some of those are 12, 13% beers. So it just takes a little bit longer. A lot of times the longer you let it hang out over here, even though the fermentation's done, even though the alcohol is there, you know, it just lets the beer rest and you don't push it through too fast. A lot of breweries like Miller, Bud, Coors, they turn beers like crazy. They get the alcohol in and then they filter it. A lot of times they use that as a marketing tool. We cold filter our beer. All they're doing is running it through filters and pulling out particles and all that. And what it really does is it kind of dumbs it down. That's why most of their beers are light lagers. So we do really crazy IPAs and stouts and all that. So you don't want to rush them, you want them to hang out. And I think from a city perspective, I would say is that one of the things that we're really proud of here is you see this tank over here, and this is called a lotter. And that's where all the grain goes in there. And when you bathe it with water and all that, well, what you're left with is this pile of oatmeal that you've pulled out the flavor and you pulled out the sugar. So you want to get rid of it. So what you do is you have an agreement with a rancher. They take it out to a ranch around here. We have a guy in Trenton, and he takes the stuff to the ranch. And this cows eat it, and they love it. It's really cool. And it's great for us because we get it out of here. The only thing is that stuff, when it comes out of there, you put it in the sun for a couple hours and it stinks and it rots and it gets flies. So what happens now in here is you basically push a button, they open a gate valve, the grain goes into that stainless steel thing there, and that blower on the bottom pushes it out into a silo. So you never see it, you never smell it, anything like that. And it stays there. When the guy brings his truck up, he puts the hose in there and it leaves. So, you know, having a brewery in a populated area, a lot of people would say, well, you just can't do that because it's industrial manufacturing and it smells and it creates odors and all that. We don't have any of that stuff. So it's just how you build it and how you construct it. Now, it's expensive. Most people don't do that. Most people take a space in a warehouse district somewhere else, but it can be done. So that's why we've invested in that system. Are there any questions?
Yes. I'm curious, what are the capacity of these guys?
So that is a 120 barrel fermenter, and this is a 60 barrel brew house. So we'll do 2 batches in that tank. This one is 240 barrels. So we also make seltzer. So what we can do is that we can make a seltzer base, and all a seltzer base is alcohol water. That's all it is. So we put alcohol water in that thing. So we have a boatload of it on demand, and then we flavor it and package it. Flavor it and package it. So we may do banana, mango, blueberry, and then it keeps rolling out. So that's really why that one is so big. It's more of a holding tank. All the ones we have at our current place are either 60s or 90s, and we have a couple 120s. But everything that will be in this space, ultimately, hopefully, will all be 120s to get up to that 50,000 barrels.
So it sounds like your current place you're going to be shutting down and relocating?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, we will move out and move everything over here. And I apologize for not having beer.
We're a little early, it
Yeah.
looks like.
We can figure that out.
Yeah.
You gonna have a rooftop for us?
Well, over on that side of the building, there's a balcony,
Yeah.
and that holds 15, 20 people. So if you're having an outing, to rent that,
Oh,
because
yeah.
when you're up there, you can look over all the city of McKinney, and you can look at the new city hall, and then you can see the stage and the bands. It's really cool. Yeah.
That's cool. Where else can you buy? Like in the campus, like grocery stores,
Yeah.
wherever?
Yeah. Kroger, Whole Foods, Market Street, everywhere.
I got a Kroger right by me, so.
Yeah.
We're all good. We have the same things.
Okay, very good.
Appreciate you pulling this up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and some of those you go into a warehouse, which is okay, but here, you get a beer, go sit out there and let your kids run around, and then they'll sit here and play and listen to music. There's a lot of places that, to a certain extent, maybe help like us in a way, because people want to get out, they want to go to places, but they don't want to be locked in. So we can go to random places and sit and do your thing. Yeah. Right. And then our current place, it's a little tough because if we have a band in there, if you're really into the music, that's a good thing. But if you're not, it's like, get me out of here. Yeah, so with this place, it's like, all right, this music's too crazy. I'm the one I can go way over there. I got options and everything. So, yeah, 4 acres is pretty big. So.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Because we're gonna have the mayor stop the meeting, but you have one.
No, it's over here.
It's right here.
This side.
All right, hearing no further questions and no further action to be taken, the meeting is adjourned.